Hey everyone, welcome to Kitchen Party. This is Babette. This is the second part of a two-part wine series that we're doing with Columbia Crest. And our amazing guest, if you were watching the last show and you are catching up to this is the second show, I want to introduce our guest, Chef John Sarich. I always say that name wrong.
It's good enough.
Whoa. When I meet you,
great about that.
When we're in Chicago next week and I meet you, I'm going to say your name like it's like rolling off my lips. So exactly. I'm going to right now, for those who are trying to figure out where our second video is, I'm going to post that in our event page. I'll be right back. Renee, do you want to continue the conversation and kind of lead off where we're at?
Yes,
I'll drink wine while I'm doing that. It's just an excuse to drink more wine.
I'll be happy to. I know we're kind of like coming up on the end of the hour, but what I was hoping that we might be able to do is circle back to the white. And Chef John, could you maybe start as if you were leading us in a wine tasting? What should we be looking for? You talked a little bit about before, like a swirl and sniff, but kind of like slow it down and walk us through it. What we should be trying to look for when we're tasting wine.
Okay, and this would be true of any wine, so I'll just kind of give you that general thing. When you first do it, you want to look at see the color, whether it's red or white. Just try to get some light behind it or something clear, like a white piece of paper even. And you see the clarity of the wine, and sometimes some wines just sparkle more than other wines, so that's what you're kind of looking for. And you swirl it just a little bit. You don't have to go crazy, just a couple of swirls, and that's going to aerate the wine a little bit, so the bouquet comes out. So then just sniff it. Get your nose in the glass and sniff up the flavor, the bouquet that you're getting, and it's going to vary from wine to wine. Now this is the unoaked Chardonnay, as I mentioned. So it's going to be a little like lemon, apple, citrus. I get a little like a blossom of some kind, a tiny bit of perfume in the bouquet. And then you just kind of analyze it. Now, if this had oak in it, you'd also get probably vanilla, butterscotch, toffee could be components in that bouquet. But since this doesn't have that, this is just pretty much pure fruit. This is the way the Chardonnay does smell. So when you taste it, just get a little bit on the palate. Slurp it around. If you can't slurp it, just slosh it around your mouth so you get it all over your tongue. And the reason for that, once you swallow it, then the different points in your tongue is tasting, acid, sugar, sweet, sour, start to play and start to tell you where the wine is kind of affecting the palate. And then as you sort of smack your lips together, what happens is that bouquet kind of comes up the back of your sinuses. You sort of get a second bouquet as you're tasting the wine. That's the kind of the complete tasting. In this wine, again, you're going to see a little bit more of the green apple with no oak. Very clean flavors. It finishes very nice in the palate. I think it lingers just enough. That's what makes it a fun food wine. It's not just hanging on the palate, which can be, it can be fun, but it also can be wearing on your palate. The wines that just linger and linger and linger, it sort of wears you out.
Because it would interrupt the flavor of the food, right? Whatever else you're trying to eat. Exactly.
And especially if we're talking about summertime. And this wine will take a nice chill because there's no oak in it, so don't be afraid to chill that down. It's perfect for summer.
How do you what do you recommend in terms of chilling time for a bottle? If you're taking it and it's warm and you want to serve it for dinner at 6 o'clock, what would you do with it?
Half hour in the refrigerator, 15 minutes in the freezer. You're going to drink it right away, so you're not going to hurt the wine. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever do what I do and leave it in the freezer and forget about it? Does that ever happen to you?
Only on those really long party nights, occasionally. And you don't want to do that because, sometimes it'll blow the cork out and it'll do all sorts of horrible things. Don't freeze it.
No, I've done it before, so I actually put a little kitchen timer on when I'm going to put it in the freezer, so then I will not forget it, and that will not happen to me.
There you go.
We did get a question from our last, our Google Hangout page. Clint Schaff said, what would be a good wine for a summer barbecue? Now, that's kind of the same question where it depends on what's being served, what's the meat. But in general, I almost feel like this Chardonnay would be probably a perfect blend.
not to, I think what you need to do at a barbecue, especially when you have a number of different people over, you're going to have different palates. Not everybody's going to drink Chardonnay. And you'll be surprised how many people will drink red. So you want this, like we mentioned, the Chardonnay goes with almost any kind of food. That's a great example to have. But then if you're going to get, like, let's say the Cabernet, and since Columbia Crest is mine, let's say Columbia Crest Cabernet. This is a Cabernet that's designed soft tannins, so it doesn't rip your, you know what the tannins are, that it's what you feel when you taste the wine. These are soft tannins, they're fruit forward, the wine is fruit forward, so it's kind of jammy, and I don't want to say light because there's a lot of flavor in this wine, but because of the low tannin, the soft tannin component, this works really well. Matter of fact, we're in Chicago, we're going to be tasting some stuff when we're in Chicago that you may not even think about, like ahi tuna with the Cabernet. Trust me, this thing's going to work. So in a barbecue at my house, we always have, now it's 2/3 reds and 1/3, 2/3 red and 1/3 white wine, because now most people are kind of leaning towards reds, and they're trying adventurous stuff with the red wines. So a wine like this particular Cabernet would work really well with that kind of thing.
Well, let's switch to that Cabernet. Maybe you can now walk us through that one. While you get started, I'm gonna hold this up just so people can see what the label looks like.
Right, Cabernet Sauvignon, 2011. Again, I just sort of gave you a little descriptor of what the wine tastes like, but let's go ahead and swirl it around too. And it's the same thing. First, you want to look at it, and you hold it up to light. It's actually got this really great garnet color. You can kind of see the light through it a little bit. It's not nice garnet color. Coats the glass, which gives it a little indication that it has some body. So you swirl it around, and you see that it coats the glass. It kind of shows that it has some backbone to it. And then when you smell it, now this is interesting because I get all sorts of stuff. I get berries. I get a bit of jam, like a blackberry jam.
I do smell blackberry jam, yeah.
See?
I think I would have been embarrassed to say that. I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, that's what you want to get in this wine. And behind that, underneath that layer, there's just a hint of, I want to say, cedar or wood. It's not overpowering. In other words, it hasn't sat in oak for too long. Again, this is a wine that's drinking really nice right now. It doesn't need to age too much longer. But you get a little bit of that oak barrel in there. I really do like I like that berry component. And again, that's going to work for the food and even grill too. Now, if you taste it, let it get on the palate, swallow it, and this is when you get this jam. It also made my mouth water in a good way. This has got that jammy character too on the palate, but you don't get the sandy tannins. You get the soft tannins. The wine lingers, but it doesn't interfere. It just kind of hangs in there nice and pleasant on the palate. I think it's great.
Chef
Great
John,
chef.
how do you, because I've been doing this thing lately where because I'm a red person. When I do red, though, my teeth turn a crazy color. I don't know what happens there, but I've been trying to do like red, and then I sip water. Red, and then I sip water, and it's been working. Is there anything else I can do to prevent that from happening? Does that happen with all reds?
I would brush your teeth before you go to bed. Go ahead and go red teeth the rest of the day. You know?
I always feel like I'm smiling and I'm like, hi. Like you see an attractive person and then they smile after they've had red wine and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, everybody else is drinking, it's going to look the same way, so don't feel so bad.
That's right. We all look the same way, Babette.
Good point. Good point. I'll try. I was doing water and I think that really works a lot. I like this a lot.
Yeah, and one of the things, put a plug in for Columbia Crest, I think it's definitely worth it. It's a winery that has always set its reputation on value versus quality. In other words, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to get a really nice drinkable bottle of wine. And matter of fact, the 2005 Reserve Cab from Columbia Crest was voted the #1 wine in the world, and that wine sold for $29 a bottle retail. And it was voted at, can I say the name? Wine Spectator, #1 wine in the world for a $30 bottle of wine. So it shows you that just because you're big, and if you're quality oriented, you can come up with these really incredible values, as well as one of the best wines in the world.
You know, I find when I
incredible value for $30, huh, Babette?
Yeah, no, you know, when we go shopping like Christmas time and we're buying wine for Eric's clients, we don't walk in there and we're like, oh, we want this brand and this is like whatever the brand is. We're always like, we'll take a bottle that's in the $30 to $40 range, a red, and then we let the person guide us. It doesn't matter.
You should do the same thing in a restaurant too. If you're really unsure and there's not any guidelines and they have a sommelier, don't hesitate to say, look, tonight we're thinking about having the salmon. What do you got for about $40 that you think will go well with it? And just be straight out with it. I just bought a used car. You got to be the same way with that too. But you have to, tell them what you want, what you're willing to spend. Don't be afraid of it, And then after you taste it, you probably will enjoy it.
Well, sometimes I feel like I'm almost being cheap if I don't want to spend more. But it sounds like you're saying I shouldn't be shy about that.
Not at all. Just remember that price never indicates quality for what you might like. What price indicates is panache. In other words, it's a brand name that everybody wants to own. B, how much wine do they make? Maybe they make very, very little of high-quality wine. It's going to cost you more. Smaller vineyard sites cost you more. There's all these things that go into the pricing of wine, but it does not indicate that you're going to like it better just because you paid $200 for that bottle of wine at the restaurant. At $200, I want a neck massage.
That's right. So, can we maybe walk through some of the photos of your vineyard up there, just so we could kind of so people can get a view of what it looks like, and basically look at your office every day, right? This is where you go to work.
Yeah. Take a look. Let's show some up there. That's great. Yeah, and it shows you the difference in topography in eastern Washington because it is sort of high desert country. It has less rain than Nevada. It has less than 7 inches of rain or less a year. But we have a great aquifer plus the river, Columbia River. So we're able to irrigate, which also helps control the vintages every year. We don't get wild swings of vintages for most years. But it's more like rolling hills a lot. And you'll see that in some of the pictures. Every once in a while, you'll see something that kind of reminds you of Napa, sort of kind of like little craggy little area, because there's a lot of different areas. Walla Walla, Washington's like that. Yakima is sort of like that. It would be more reminiscent of what you'd think of Napa, for example. But a lot of eastern Washington is these rolling hills of vineyards, and then get great sun exposure, you get great ripening of the grapes that way, and it also gets that cool night air off the Columbia River, which helps retain the acidity.
Looks so relaxing. I feel like I want to be there with those women and that guy and be like,
right.
I like to order.
What is this that we're looking at?
That's the tasting room. You're like one of the tasting bars you're looking at, actually.
You know, I went to a tasting room and I didn't realize that you don't have to get all of the wines, because I went with some friends years later and they're like, oh, if you don't like any of the whites, like just go for the reds immediately. And it changed my whole experience of like what a tasting would be. Do you have any recommendations for people who are maybe this summer taking a tour of a vineyard? What they should look out for, what they should do if they're new to wine when they go to a tasting room?
Well, I think, like we just mentioned, before the beginning of the show, was if you taste whites and reds, go from white to red. It just makes sense on the palate. Generally, most tasting rooms, whether it's here, California, wherever, have like little, inert cracker things you can kind of clean your palate, or a sip of water is even better. But always go white to red. It's also a good idea to go light to heavy. So if you want to start with the lighter whites to the heavier whites, same thing with the reds, lighter reds to heavier reds. And then just kind of pick and choose which ones you like. But it's so hard, when you look in a grocery store or wine shop or retail shop, and there's just such amazing amount of wine. And if you can't taste it, you don't know until you get it home. So that's one of the fun things about going to Eastern Washington, to Napa, to Sonoma, wherever, and be able to taste the wines before you purchase it, find out what you like.
I like that.
Renee, how do you buy wine? Like, what's your process?
You know what? I really try to get recommendations, and then if I find something I like, I stick with it. I mean, I will just stick with it, because it can just be so overwhelming to go someplace and just try to figure out what you want. I have a lot of friends who know about wine and like wine, and so I do not hesitate now to say, I'm going to serve such and such. Why don't you bring a wine and we'll drink it?
Well, that's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's because people always want to bring something, but this way it's something that they can also enjoy themselves too. So we can all have it together and kind of almost do like a little mini tasting with this person who can tell us why they chose this particular wine to go with this particular meal.
That's a great thing. So we have 10 minutes left to our show. I just want to make sure we get through some of our stuff. Were you going to say something, John? I just wanted to give you a time, like a.
What I was going to say that kind of be fun to do too, if you want to try and you're not used to picking out your own stuff. If you have people, we do a brown bag. Have you ever heard about that? Where people pick a wine. Well, and it's always best if they know what you're cooking, so they can kind of try to match it. But then you put it in a bag, and you taste it blind, and everybody just picks what they like the flavor of, what they like the best. You will be more often amazed at what people end up liking that they think they wouldn't, or that they were going to go for the $150 bottle, when in fact they went for the $20 bottle. And it's just a fun surprise thing to do. Is just bag them up and then mark and say,
for Christmas we give my better half's sister and brother-in-law, we give them 12 bottles of wine, and we randomly select we go to a place and they help us pick 12 good bottles that are good enough to drink. But we randomly select these different ones, and we have it so that each month they drink another bottle of wine, and we leave like a little message on each bottle, and it's really cute.
That's cute.
Yeah, and we found that when we went to like wherever we go and we buy wine, I've been going to some different places. There's always like one really knowledgeable person who knows wine. And the problem is seeking out that person. Like when you go to the store, like don't be afraid to. It's always somebody who, is in the back, who is busy working. You never see them out front. And then I find that if you just ask, you're like, I have no idea what I'm getting. I need some help. There's always one person who's just incredibly knowledgeable, which I think.
I'll give you a little hint on that too. When you go into whether it's a wine store or something else and you ask for a recommendation, if that person does not say, what do you normally like to drink, all he's recommending is what he likes. What he needs to do is that you need to find out, or he needs to find out, she needs to find out, first of all, what do you normally drink? And then once they have that information, they can go, move it up a notch or to the left or to the right. But that's the first start. If they don't ask you that, they're just giving you what they like.
That is a fantastic suggestion. That is a fantastic tip.
Good.
So, Chef John, what would go well with this cap?
Well, we
I
talked
love
about
this, by the way.
I mean, you could do a burger with this thing. You know what really would go well with this? It sounds crazy, but barbecued ribs with a good old red sauce on it, and it seems like kind of plebeian, I guess, when you're putting it up against Cabernet. But the Cabernet barbecued ribs, dynamite match. Delicious.
It looks like we just lost Renee, but she'll probably bounce right back in. I'm a vegetarian, and I always have a hard time because when I go out to eat, it's like salad. That's all they give me, salad, or veggies or grilled veggies or anything like that. What do you recommend for, because it seems like summertime too, a lot of the people who are normally eating a lot of vegetables, grilled vegetables, what would go well with that? Would this go well with that, or would it be more the white?
No, well, if I was going to do reds with that kind of cuisine, vegetarian cuisine, I mean, there's some Indian foods, for example, would work well with that. I'm thinking in terms of lentils, that kind of heavier stuff. But also think in terms of, again, spices that you can mix with this thing. I find Lebanese food really good because of some of the vegetarian options that you have. It goes great with red wine. And again, it's sort of, at that point, what do you feel like drinking? Sometimes people ask me so often, they say, well, what's your best matches? And I said, well, if it's daytime, it's white. If it's nighttime, it's red. Because that pretty much lets me off the hook. But the spicy vegetarian stuff, especially if it's pretty heated, the unoaked Chardonnay would be a really good match for that.
That is great advice. I had some questions for you. I just wanted to make sure I went over them. I pretty much went over all the questions that I had planned. What are, in all of your experience dealing with people who are new to wine, Is there like a common misconception that people have about wine, or is there something where you're like, I just wish everybody knew this?
Well, if it's one thing, and it's just a pet peeve of mine, it's the temperature of red wine. There's this conception, because you read about it, even professionals misquote this. They'll say serve it at room temperature. The average room temperature in the United States is 74 degrees. Red wine should be consumed no more than upper cellar temperature, which is 64 degrees. When red wines get too warm, they taste hot, they taste tannic, they need a little bit of a chill. So especially in summertime, when it's hot and we're out in the backyard, we'll put the ice bucket and just lay the red wine on top of the ice bucket, and it just keeps it down at that mid-60s range. So that's my biggest pet peeve, is I think people drink their red wines way too hot.
You know, I love red wine cold, and I always thought I was like a weird person. I was like, that's strange. Like, nobody drinks it that way. That's really dumb of it. But now I'm going to be the genius of the group, and I'm going to say, look, Chef John told me this is the way it is. I'm not going to feel like an idiot anymore. No, really.
Yeah, good for you.
That's good. Okay, that's what I thought. You know, it tastes better. It actually, it like what you get from the white of the chill and having something cool and refreshing. I get that when I cool my red wine a little bit. I still have that kind of feeling, but I prefer red, the flavor. So it was like this, you know, kind of battle that I always have where I'm like, oh, it's really hot outside. I probably should have some white. But now I can just be like, put it on ice. No, I won't put it on ice.
That's right.
Well, I am looking so forward to actually meeting you in person next week. And if you're watching now and you're going to be going to Tech Munch Chicago, we're going to have so many great things planned for you. Chef John put together a menu that the Wolfgang Puck Catering Department is going to complement the wine that we're going to be serving. We're going to have a whole wine workshop, which is going to be fabulous. If you're new and you don't know about Tech Munch Chicago, you can go to Tech Munch, CHI for short for Chicago.com, or you could go to techmunchconf.com and find out more information about the conference. Also, if you're looking for recipes, go to BakeSpace.com. We have 60,000 recipes for you to try now that you have some great wines that you can match. And I want to thank the folks at Columbia Crest for sponsoring this wonderful chat. And John, you were amazing. I can't wait to like send you a text message one day and be like, I'm serving this. I need to know what wine goes well with that.
I'd love to help you with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We will see you soon. Next week we are going to be off because we're going to be at Tech Munch Chicago. But we will put our agenda for our next shows. It's every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And John, we will be toasting to Renee, who was not able to get back into the chat. But cheers. Thank you so much for your wine. It was absolutely delicious. We will see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.